how I came across you, which is the video you created around value. This idea, I think it got 1.1 million views. All right, so welcome to another episode of Interviewing the Greats. Today we have the wonderful Sarah. Sarah, I have a tradition of always just giving the mic over to my guest to introduce himself. Who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're calling in from today.
Okay, I'm Sarah. I'm 21. I'm calling in from California. I'm currently in the Bay Area where I grew up, but I've been all over California, and I study marine biology. I'm about to get my bachelor's in May, so in 5 months from now.
Yeah.
And
so Interviewing the Greats was inspired by people doing really, really cool stuff. So how I found Sarah was a really cool video on Instagram around how our value has changed over the years, and we will get to that very, very shortly. I want to just understand what led you into marine biology. 21 years old, how did you know you wanted to go and do a degree? Bachelor's in May. How did you know you wanted to go and do that?
So I was really, really lucky, and I was born into two parents who are scuba divers. And so when yeah, won the lottery there.
Yeah, and baptism by fire.
Yeah, my dad's a big diver, and he got my mom into diving. And then after I was born, my mom didn't dive so much. And so when I turned 10, which is the minimum age that you can legally dive in the US, my dad was like, okay, you're my new dive buddy. And he took me diving, and I was like, this is what I want to do every day. Like, this is the best thing ever. And my dad was like, well, if you want to do this every day, you should be a marine biologist. I was 10, so I was like, at 10 years old, I was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist. And I got the whole, marine biology is really hard. It's not just looking at fish. But throughout high school, I was really into math, and I volunteered at an aquarium where I learned all about the cool biology aspects of the ocean, and being able to share those with the public was really, really cool. And that was kind of what solidified, like, this is really what I really want to do. And then it came time to apply for college, and my parents were both very supportive. Like, we really want you to go to college, and you can, if that's what you want to study, like, we'll support you in that. So to marine biology.
And so the love for diving, I'm assuming PADI open water or whatever certification you've got your open water, probably your deep dive or whatever it's called, in your dry suit. Do you do dry suits in California?
Most people do. I haven't yet. But most people, especially in Northern California, if you dive there normally or regularly, you are usually dry suit certified. But I've mostly been diving around like the Channel Islands, so Central and Southern California.
It's nice and warm, and you're in like a wetsuit or whatever, and it's pretty chill.
Yeah, I have a pretty thick, like this past semester, I did a lot of diving, and I had a 7 by 14 millimeter suit, so I was pretty warm.
I'm going to pretend I know what that means. I've got my PADI Advanced or whatever it is, so I can go to like 30 meters or 18 meters, one of the two, I can't remember. It's probably good. I haven't dived in a long time. But anyway, the reason I share this is because I've only ever dived in dry suits, because in the UK we are not blessed with the California sun, where it's probably a pleasant 20 degrees year round for you. Whereas for us, when I was getting my PADI, it was -4 on the top, surface temperature of 2 degrees. So I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but so I want to talk a little bit though, because it's cool that you've had like the parents have got you into it. Has there ever been a point though, Sarah, when you thought you wanted to try off and go off and do something else, or was it aquarium life that kind of solidified it for you? Or talk to me a bit about like kind of that journey.
So I was pretty set on marine biology, and specifically I was really into sharks. I was like, sharks are the coolest thing ever. I want to study sharks. I'll get my PhD and become a professor, and that will be what I do. And then when I got to college, I was like, I don't think I want to stay in academia for my whole life, which is basically what you do if you become a professor. So my first semester, I was like, oh, wow, like, I really don't know what I want to do. Like, what I thought I wanted to do, I'm realizing doesn't feel right for me anymore now that I'm here. So I explored I almost wanted to change majors just because I didn't see a clear direction of where I was going. And I decided to minor in international studies because I took a GE that was international studies. And I loved that class. So I declared a minor in international studies, and I took all these international studies classes, and I saw how interconnected these were with environmental science and conservation and all these things that kind of drew me to marine biology. And it opened my eyes to how I could use this degree for so many other things beyond just staying in academia and becoming a professor and teaching other students about it. So I did that, and then I was able to study abroad and just learn about how other countries are, how they view conservation, and like what, like being from the US, like what I can learn from how other countries do things, because a lot of them have better systems than we do here. And yeah, and now I'm really glad that I stayed in marine bio, and I'm gonna finish my degree, but I'm not sure exactly if I'll stay within, I'm not sure exactly what I'll do with it yet.
I got you. So one point I want to just kind of like pick out there, you talked about it didn't feel right to stay kind of like within academia for like that whole, that your either your whole life or your whole profession. Can you, because one of my next questions is going to be around journaling and some of the crucial questions you've been able to develop around there. How did you learn the skill of like listening to what feels right for you and going with that, of like kind of like self-awareness, self-trust of like, something doesn't feel right, I'm going to stick to this instead of, oh, I've made a decision, I'm going to go. Where have you learned that skill to kind of like navigate through how you're feeling about something and then pivot and change as and when you feel you need to?
That is a really good question. Well, I'll start by saying when it came to marine bio, it was very like a higher calling, if that makes sense. Like I was so sure that this was like what I was put on the planet to do. When I was going to school, when I was applying for college and stuff, I was like very sure, just because the way like it felt to be in the ocean. And when I was at the aquarium, I could tell the guests like all these cool facts about like the anatomy of sea jellies and sharks, and just like sharing like this world is so cool, like this world that we live in is so cool. And it just felt so right. And then when I got to college, and then things just didn't feel, I just didn't feel very happy, mostly with kind of the culture of academia. And it was just so stressful, and there was so much, I felt like, competition and not as much like collaboration for a common goal. And I just didn't feel the same like spark of this is where I'm meant to be. So it was definitely confusing, but I just knew like I'm not going to stay in this kind of world of academia forever. Like I committed to this college, and like because I'm here, I'll see it through. But I definitely was like, this is not how I'm going to spend my whole life. It just doesn't fulfill me in the way I thought it would.
It sounds to me almost as if you're committed to getting May done in terms of getting your bachelor's. It sounds as if you're very much in this kind of exploratory conversation of where do I feel is the right next step for me? This has been a good start, but where is that next step? And you're almost navigating that right now. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, pretty much. So I know you found me from Instagram, which has been really cool too, because something that didn't sit right with me about research is that there will be like one person who is the expert on one very specific like niche of marine biology, like even as specific as how this specific fish has a relationship with this specific bacteria or stuff like that. Like research is very specific, like very specific questions, and that's important and really cool that people do that. And it's really but what I felt was like I don't want to get such a high level of knowledge and be so busy answering these questions that I don't and then the rest of the population doesn't have access to this information because it's all behind paywalls. And unless you're a student, like really people, like these studies aren't always accessible, and even if they are accessible, they're written in ways that the general population wouldn't want to read or understand. So
I have a quick question. I have a quick question on this because a moment you said the words, which I so let me give you a quick example. I've been coaching now for 13 years, right? Not to give away my age, these worry lines do not get there on their own, right? But I've been coaching for 13 years, and very rarely do I hear anyone talk about like the idea of collaboration for a common goal, which is what you said a minute ago around this idea of like, I don't want to go into academia and just do this job. I want to work towards something with someone. So what it sounds to me like is that you're starting to scratch at the door or starting to scratch the itch of like, well, actually, how do I do something that impacts a lot of people? Instead of it just being a small amount of people that might see the research if they have the money or the bandwidth, it's more actually, how do I give people really quite a lot of access? It's almost like carrying on that aquarium life where people want to learn about this stuff. I can teach the mass as opposed to just a small, minute corner of maybe a bit of interest. Have I got that right?
yeah, so that was what kind of called me to explore social media. Is I have this really cool knowledge from being able to get a bachelor's degree, which a lot of people aren't able to do. And then
Mm-hmm.
with this free tool, I can literally make a video and it can literally reach so many humans from across the world. It's almost like not real. So yeah, that was kind of what brought me to make that account and share the type of content that I
Well, I'm
was
I'm
sharing.
excited for the rest of the content that comes out, Sarah. I really am. So let's talk about journaling now, because I think for me anyway, I go onto Instagram. You look at these courses or you look at these gurus, and they talk about journaling, 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 but no one ever really gives the depth underneath it. Could you just talk to us a little bit about like when you journal, like firstly, what got you into it? Like when did you first pick up a pen and paper? And what are some of the things that you kind of write about, think about? Give us some structure around it for us.
Well, so I've been journaling since I was like 7 years old. My school would have these book fairs where they would sell these really cute journals with like cute cats or dogs on them. And
Yeah.
I would just talk to my journal about what I did today. And this was also the time when these books for kids it was the structure of it was like you're reading another kid's journal. Like I would read Dork Diaries. I know other people would read Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That was like the big like books that we would read at the time. So I was always thought it was like so cool to journal. I felt so like and in middle school was when I started. It was really more of a like I was, middle school dealing with big emotions and drama and whatever, and I could just go to my journal and just like write out everything I was feeling without the like kind of like as if I was telling someone else, but without the like, oh, how are they going to react? Like, what's their response going to be? So I started just as a kid, and it just naturally became something that was very therapeutic at a young age for me.
Obviously, journals are sacred spaces, so I won't ask you specifically what you write in there, but is there a couple of questions, like a question or two in terms of prompts that you write that kind of help you when it comes to getting the right thoughts out? Because I don't know if you feel the same, but when I journal now, the first thing I write is almost like the first line of inquiry for me. So I might write a question like, "Yo, how's the day been, man?" And then it'd be like, "Oh, what did I feel today?" And then within that, it'd be like, "Oh, what made me pick out that emotion out of everything?" And then I'll go like 2 or 3 layers in, and then I'm like, "Oh, this is actually what I wanted to talk about today." So is there like a prompt or two for you that could like in terms of that gets you into that kind of like pattern of thinking and writing?
For starters, I have a lot of different journals. So I
Well,
have
let's start there. You don't just have them when they run out. You've got like different feelings and days and
yeah.
stuff.
So
Got
I
to
have
talk to us about that.
I have one that is more like a scrapbook, and I started it like freshman year of college, and it's pretty much like all these memories. I have photos in there, I have mementos, and I would just write stories of like, oh, today, this I don't know, had this really cool dish at this really cool restaurant, or I met this really cool person on the bus. So just like really cool kind of like just a way to document, and it's kind of the type of thing like it's not private. Like I kind of see maybe one day my kids picking it up and being like, oh, this is what mom was up to in college or something like that. And then I have a journal that or I've had several of these because I fill them up quick and then I need a new one. But that's where I just get out whatever I need to get out. Like if I'm mad or frustrated, I'll just like write whatever. Or even if I just need to process anything, like if there's a part of my life that is just like I'll have like thought circles around and I just like can't seem to understand what's happening, or I seem to have the same repetitive thoughts that aren't nice to have, I'll just like get it out in a journal. And then usually in doing that, it will just help me create new connections. Like I'll like write the whole story of what's happening, and then I'll be like, oh, so this is what's happening, and it helps me process those. And then I have like a journal where I just document like if I'm trying to reach goals, like just, oh, these are my goals and this is where I'm at, this is what I've learned in relation to this goal that I'm trying to get. So it kind of is just, it's not like something that I like purposely make a habit of. It's just something that's always been natural to me.
I got you. And then kind of, I think it would be a good way to kind of like summarize how I came across you, which is the video you created around value. This idea, I think it got like, I think 1.1 million views or 700,000 views. It went kind of like crazy, right? So talk to us a little bit about what inspired that video and the big takeaway from you for that video.
Yeah, so like I said, I minored in international studies, and I took a lot of classes, really cool classes, to get that minor. And so the concept of the disconnect, a lot of people like mentioned this in the comments, but the concept of being disconnected from our labor is, it's like the alienation of labor is Karl Marx. So I don't take credit for that. That's
Yeah. I get you.
And in the class I took was global divisions of labor. So we learned about division of labor, and we basically learned about that concept, how things like anything like a chair, a piece of clothing used to be made by one person, and now we've divided it up. Like you take a pencil and the rubber is from one part of the world, the wood is from another part of the world. There's the lead, the metal, and the paint, and all of it are from different parts of the world, and they're constantly like, it's like extracted from the earth, it's turned into one form, and then it's processed, and then it's shipped to another place, and then the pencil is assembled, and then it's shipped to a distribution place, and and then there's like the plastic that the pencils are wrapped in, and like one product that we buy is like from all these different parts of the world. Like we have no idea really where all these things that are around us all the time, where they come from. So that was something I learned from that class. And then what I'm really passionate about is like really this concept of like consumerism. I'm from the US, so we're like, it's almost like our culture is to constantly consume, which is not very environmental. But it's like, even behind like the environmental aspect of it, there's like the psychological aspect of like, why do we constantly feel this need to consume like so much? And we're so identified with our belongings, and there's like the spiritual aspect and the economic aspect. Like there's so much just in these things that are around us all the time. And so that's like what I'm really interested in, is like consumerism and how that affects the earth, how that affects us, and how that affects others, and the labor behind the things we consume. And so that video was like me trying to conceptualize all this and into a way that I understood, and then a way that I could communicate to others. And I guess it resonated a lot. So
If you think about the word value now, so the examples I think you make in your video around cake makers, seamstress, things like this, right? If you think about the word value now, how would you summarize someone seeing how they can become valuable to the marketplace, right? And by marketplace, I mean careers, jobs, other people. Let's not go into like family units and all of this kind of stuff, because those metrics are completely different. But in terms of like value that people can start to think about they bring now, because those jobs, like you talk about seamstress, cake makers, all of this stuff, it's so far gone.
Right.
in terms of mass production, in terms of in communities, small knit communities, where your baker is your next door neighbor and you're all close knit. How how do you see people really doubling down on value in this day and age now? And even that word, understanding what it really means. Have you got a couple of thoughts on that?
Yeah. So something I saw in the pandemic was so many people kind of were able to take their hobbies and turn them into businesses. And the example that's the most close to me is my dad. He's always been super into swimming. Like, I learned to swim when I was a really little baby, and he would always be in the pool with us. He volunteered, coached my swim team in middle school, and he always said, like, oh, my passion is like swimming, and if I could do anything, I would open up a swim school. And so in the pandemic, he began working from home, and when it was safe, um, or when, he eventually started teaching swimming lessons on his lunch break. Just He just really loves swimming, and he was like, oh, it's great, I get to like exercise and get out, and it's like his passion. And he's like, oh, these kids know how to swim now, they're less likely to drown, which is, I think he said, number one cause of death for kids under 4 in, I don't know if that's in California or the US, but he
I'll
learned
fact
that.
check that for you. I'll
Yeah,
fact check,
something like
yeah.
that. But he just started doing what he loves, and it just spread like word of mouth. Like, those kids' parents told other kids, and he teaches adults too. He teaches all sorts of people to swim, and now he makes more than he did with his old job just by doing what he loves. Like, he basically started this little business, and he provides so much value to his clients. Like, he's a great instructor, and like all his clients are basically from word of mouth. Like, they really liked him and they recommend him to others. And I see this too, like, a craft shop opened up by my house, and I was talking to the owner, and she was like, yeah, I've always been a crafty person, and in the pandemic I just like started this little business, and it grew from there. So it's really, really cool to see people that are just able to make money doing what they love, which is such a shift from what I grew up was like, oh, like, you exchange your time for money, and it doesn't matter.
Slightly
Or
outdated, that
yeah.
concept. Slightly
Yeah.
outdated. There's two questions I love around this topic, and so, by the way, I was for a long time I was on this I was on the I was beginning the treadmill of chase the money and eventually I'll be able to buy happiness. And at 17, I went into banking and then I went into high-end sales. And at 24, I was like, this is stupid because I'm getting money, but I'm getting less happy. So I thought this thing that would give me happiness, money and stuff. And then, so at 24, I had a bit of an epiphany. And there's two questions I came up with that for me have been able to be a really good mentor or kind of like guide along this journey. And the first question is, where do I naturally excel? Because if you can think about, and everybody has it, right? Some people might call it a gift, some people might call it a calling or soul or whatever. For me, it's just, where do you naturally excel? Like, where are you really, really good? But then that needs to be combined with the word joy. And I think joy can be broken down into like two ways, which is like, what's the experience that you have and what's the fun you're having along that way, right? So, and for me, those two questions, so where do you naturally excel and what do you enjoy doing, what do you find joy in? I haven't gone wrong, and I've been doing that now almost 10 years, almost a decade. I've been following that kind of route, giving away my age of 33 now. But so I just wanted to say thank you, Sarah, from the bottom of my heart for sharing. It's incredible that I said it to you before we jumped on the interview. At 21 years old, I really wish I had my head screwed on kind of near as tight as you've got it. So 10 out of 10. Any final thoughts? Any final like kind of like top tips for things that you've learned along the way? Be that from social media, be that from career, be that from kind of like pursuing what you enjoy. Any kind of final tips or tricks?
I guess the most important thing that I've learned and seen in others is just believing that things are possible, even if it doesn't, like, before you see the evidence that it's possible. Like, with this
Like
account,
imagine it in your mind.
right, just saying it's possible. Like, we live in this crazy world where crazy things happen all the time. So like things can, like, amazing things that seem crazy, they're possible. Like that account, I was so nervous to post because I was like, I don't know if anyone will even like care, or I was nervous, like, what if someone from my life sees those posts, and like, I don't know, I just had all these thoughts of, but I was like, maybe it'll resonate with a lot of people, maybe I'll bring a lot of people joy. And like 1.5 million views was crazy. I was like, whoa. But I get, and it paid off. Like, so many people messaged me like, wow, thank you so much, like, just for sharing your content. And like, I also am really into this, like, environmentalism and conservation. And the cool thing about the internet is, like, we're born into whatever place and we don't get to choose that. And maybe there's no one around you that has the same values as you or vision for the future, but the internet, you have access to literally billions of people. So you can find kind of your tribe, or just others that are have similar experiences or thought patterns, and it's really cool. Yeah. So
I want to finish on this one point. My life at 27 shifted dramatically when I aligned myself to vision and values. When I understood, and I actually, I don't know how much work you've done on this, but I removed the name Alex from it, because Alex is a narrative that I think I need to play out. Whereas now I just go to, like, if I wasn't given my story and I was a blank canvas, what would I want to do? And filling into that place. And I've got a really fun little exercise for that. Maybe we'll do that a different day or a different time, unless you want to try it now. It's really fun. And then, but the minute I align to my vision of where do I want to go, not just not just where does Alex want to go. That's a narrative that I've been playing out for years, right? But where do I want to go, and what's the values that are going to keep me true to that? The minute I jumped on that path, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. The minute I jumped on that path, it's weird how the opportunities and lessons that I needed to learn to become the guy that can handle what is coming my way now. Like, in the time, it feels great and it feels terrible, but you're like, whoa, this is what I asked for. And I'm now being given the opportunity. Can you talk to us just for a minute on that? Because I love the smile. I love the nodding. It tells me that I'm either resonating with you, or you're like, I'm in the midst of that. So, like, talk to me, man. Talk to me about what's going on for you in this moment.
yeah, it definitely resonates. It in the more like, in my personal, I can only speak for myself. In, like, my personal experience, when I have experienced that, where I think of something and then it's almost like it happens. And I know, like, like, someone who doesn't believe that that's real, I'll never be able to convince them that
Yeah,
that's
don't worry
real.
about those people.
Yeah.
Don't.
But I know, like, it's real. Like, I read this book. It was called You Are a Badass, and that was the first time I was introduced to this, like, law of attraction. And I was very skeptical because, I was like, I'm a scientist and I don't know about all this stuff. But I was like, you know what? Like, maybe it's real. Like, who knows? Like, you don't lose anything by thinking positively. So I was like, I have to, think positively, because, like, maybe this is true, and, like, maybe my mind is literally creating all this reality. And, like, it was just like that just, like, changed my life. Like, not to be super cliche,
No.
but
I hear
yeah,
you. So I
I was,
tell you something. I have a concept that I teach called plus minus equals. Have you heard of the notion that you are the average of the people you spend your time with?
yes, I have.
Yes. So can I quickly? Do you mind if I take the mic for a second and quickly share? Do you mind?
No, I don't mind.
Cool. So there's a guy in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, called Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn was a motivational speaker that spoke a lot in California about the power of mindset and about the power of motivation, all of this stuff. He had a concept of you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with. Now, I have an adaptation to that, which is I believe you're the first and the last person you start every day with. How you talk to yourself in the morning and how you talk to yourself at night, regardless of who you go to sleep with, right? Whatever, right? You are the last conversation you're having and the first conversation you're having. So you need to make sure those two conversations are great. But the three people in the middle is what I call plus minus equals. And plus minus equals is built around the concept of like you need to be around someone that is better than you of where you're trying to go. Right. So if you think about where you're trying to go, the values, everything, and by better, I mean they've done what you are trying to do. So be that a marine biologist or be that a TikToker or whatever your vice is, right? They are doing it and you need to be around them because they'll teach you all the things that books will take you months to learn in. The minus is funny enough what you keep talking about, which is the common goal, right? Collaborations on a common goal. The minus is be around someone that wants to be in the seat that you're currently in. And it sounds
Ooh.
weird because we were like, well, I'm nothing. I'm just this person on the way up. But where you are today, someone would only pray to be where you are right now, right? Be that followers, be that in university. You even mentioned it's not everyone gets the opportunity to go. So that's why I love what you're doing, Sarah, where you're giving back. And then the equals is be around someone similar to you in a similar place. And the reason for this is that life is really, really lonely, especially if you're trying to do something different, right? Is that you need the support of a companion or a friend or whoever that gets your dream, gets your vision, and then is trying to do something similar. And I think that is the most powerful tool I've ever given away. I share is because, especially for me, just to share, I didn't really have these people going on the way up. You make it in life, you do pretty well in life, you become a somebody or whatever, right? And you have all the support, right? But on the way up, everyone's like, "Oh man, don't do that. Don't step out your comfort zone.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
they? Yeah." And then yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting journey. Anyway, I'm truly grateful for your time, Sarah. Thank you for devoting your Saturday mid-afternoon, midday for this talk. 42 minutes in, that's been incredible. So, any final thoughts? Any closing thoughts from you, or you feel like we did pretty well there?
I think we did pretty well. It was super cool to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
My girl, cool. In that case, stay on after this. I just got a quick question for you. But other than that, for everyone listening, for everyone watching, this is Sarah. I'll put all of her tags, all of her LinkedIn or Instagram, all of her captions, everything to get in touch with her below there if you want to speak to her or see her content. Until the next video, God bless you all. Thank you for watching.